We are honored. We are blessed. We should all be bowing down to. No, I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, not at all.
Not at all. But my man Steve Browne is here, and Steve, yesterday you keynoted in front of 18,000 people. You're literally like Mick effing Jagger up there on this stage. This guy walks like. Are you nervous when you're up there?
I always get nervous. I think speakers that don't get nervous are a little scary to me. You got to be a little edgy because you never know what the crowd's going to do or how they're going to respond. So yeah, a little.
I'm an aspiring keynote speaker. I actually just got booked. I got ERE coming up, and I'm going to talk about some things. And this keynoting is different than this.
Yes.
And it's a different skill set. What advice would you give me as a public speaker? Maybe something that got handed down to you.
It's your content. You keep worrying about what other people are going to think, or I missed a slide, or I missed a point. It's your content. The audience doesn't know, but if you focus on the audience through your content, you'll kill it every time.
That is some sage advice out there. So let's talk about your story a little bit. And I find it interesting because some people, well, I'm in recruiting, so very few people actually come out of school and like, oh, I want to be a recruiter when I grow up, right? Yeah. But the HR people practice is an interesting one. How did where's your origin story? How'd you get into it?
Origin story. That's kind of like Marvel. It's kind of fun, yeah.
We're going to add cue some cool smoke effects here in post-production.
Went to school for science. I went for engineering and then chemistry. I was failing. And I came home. I was like one semester away from being kicked out.
Yeah, me too.
And my mom said, why aren't you in a field that involves people? So I went into communications, and in communications, I took a class on interviewing. And in the class, you had to interview every student, and they had to interview you. And at the end, they said, who should be the interviewer and who should be the interviewee? And the class said I should interview myself. And I took that as a sign, like, I think I'm in the field I need to be in. So I went into recruiting at Procter & Gamble out of school. Didn't understand culture. Didn't understand that I didn't fit the large corporate model.
How so?
It's a lot more structured than I'm used to. It's a lot more hierarchy than I like. And you get to do this much work. It's a wonderful company.
Large enterprise organization, siloed.
Yeah, so you get to do this much. And I said, isn't there more to do? And they said, well, you'll have to go here, 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 move 3 times.
Right.
And I went, no. So then I went into being a generalist at a small entrepreneur. In manufacturing, when I told Procter & Gamble I wouldn't leave to go into manufacturing, I ended up in manufacturing.
Well, let's pause there for a second. And I actually like the fact that you touched on your story that you started as a recruiter because, listen, HR and TA, they're kissing cousins. They're not the same. A lot of people, back in the day, they were.
Yes.
Back in the day, HR was responsible for hiring until, if we're going down the timeline, TA broke away. They're like, well, I'm rebellious. Screw you, mom and dad. I'm going out on my own, right? But it needed to be because there's different functions and there's different disciplines. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, some organizations, HR sometimes still oversees TA and hiring, and then they interlap when there's benefits and payroll and bringing people back on. But what did you learn? Was it a takeaway that you had during your time, a short time at Procter & Gamble in TA that gave you some insights from that perspective in that seat?
Yes, I think it helped me learn that if I made the hiring person, manager successful, it was a better relationship. Not I just had to fill roles. So I got to know all my hiring managers, knew them very well, got to understand their style. And then it was a lot easier for me to source and land candidates.
I think that's an interesting point too. And this works for anybody in any organization. Let me take a step back. I think the greatest title and role that's been created in the last 10 years is HR VP.
Yeah.
And anybody out there who's not playing along, HR business partner, this person sits at the intersection between talent and the hiring manager and finance and accounting and decision-making and the C-suite. They understand the business, they understand salary. Do you have HR VPs in your organization?
No, we're small. Well, I consider them that.
Well, from a skill set perspective.
Yeah, skill set perspective, yes. Because I can't afford, we're lean, like a lot of companies. They need to be able to understand what we're doing and where we're doing it and why we're doing it, not just plod along. My team's amazing, but I bring that to them because I learned the hard way when we weren't allowed to learn the business. Now, if you don't know the business, you shouldn't be in HR.
You have to understand the business out there, and being a good HR or even a TA partner is being able to position, not so much plead your case. I was about to literally say plead your case, but be able to be a champion for the candidate, be a champion for the hiring manager, being able to talk to finance and say, you know what, we have a great candidate on the hook, and I know the role is only at 95K. We're going to close him for 100K and why that investment is, but be able to rationalize it.
Sure.
What's some advice you have out there for new folks in the world of internal TA? They're working inside a company. How do you establish those? Because it can be daunting.
I think bring up your voice. Don't just be passive. You know, like, hey, I'll talk to you when I'm supposed to and only react. Really get inside and find out, does the hiring manager know what they really need? It's more than the job description. We just hired a director of marketing 3 years ago and didn't use a job description.
How'd you go about it?
We said, here's the characteristics we're looking at. Tell us what you bring to the table and help it. Because what I found was people were matching bullet points. And we're hiring from bullet points and we don't know who the person is. I think it's awesome. If we're going to bring talent into the organization, in TA or in HR, you got to know that you're bringing in talent, not just matching a description.
So Steve, let's unpack that a little bit more. The adage of hire for character, train for skill. I generally agree with that, with a big asterisk on it. That's the caveat. As long as they have the skill that we need for this job.
Yes, absolutely.
Because people leave that out.
Yeah.
So talk to us specifically about this search, because now I'm intrigued for this director. How did the recruitment team go out and source without a job description?
Well, it's interesting.
Right? And how did they go talk to the candidate? Sorry, one second part of
Sure.
it. Without that job description.
We put it out there and said, hey, here's what we're generally looking for. Here's the level of the role. Here's the impact that you'll make in the organization if you fill it. Strategic plus tactical. Broader terms instead of, marketing language and stuff just to match. And what was interesting is several very qualified people who are marketing executives chose not to apply because they didn't have a job description to match.
Why are they so binary?
It's hard.
But that means that's not who you're looking for.
No. So
that's
the person,
not the thinking you need for the role.
Right. The person we hired, amazing. And she brought this stuff to the table that no one ever thought of. And she's already fulfilling that. So
that's amazing.
She had a skill set and character, but and you've seen this change, Adam. We used to hire for fit, now we're firing for add. People had to make our company better.
Value add.
Yes, but just to come and fill a hole, I don't need that.
Steve, you just triggered me. You triggered me. And you said the F word.
Uh-oh.
I despise the F word.
Yes.
Culture fit.
No.
When people use fit, that means I want everyone to look, sound, act fit.
Exactly.
And mine, you could steal this from me. I've said this at keynotes. I like to say that a company's culture should be a quilt, right? Yeah. And the quilt is made up of different fabrics, different colors, different textiles, different looks, feels, vibes on that, right? And each one's different, but when you put it together, right? And then you pan out, that's your organization. But it all comes together as one. You can steal that at your next keynote, as long as he gives me credit for that. He'll wordsmith it a bit. Just like your shirt. It's a beautiful quilt.
Quilt. I like that.
So let's talk about the shirts for a minute. I have a good friend. Chris Adamo, and my buddy Chris Adamo, for the last 1,400 days, has been wearing jam shirts. You know the jam shirts?
Oh, yeah.
The 80s jam shirts, and his closet's filled with jams. And what he's found from that is he's created a personal brand that's an icebreaker. Yeah. Have you found these shirts to be icebreakers?
Oh, yeah. It makes some people jump in and other people make it uncomfortable. Like, I would never wear that. And other people are like, man, I think you should wear clothes that expresses who you are.
I love it. Is that like kind of a philosophy you embrace within LaRosa's? And they don't have to wear a uniform at a certain point if they're a frontline worker.
We've changed quite a bit. Yeah, we just went through a big switch where I know this is not radical, but we went to T-shirts instead of polos and logos.
We're talking about the frontline restaurant workers.
Yeah. And so we said, here's a T-shirt, and they're like, what? And they can't get them enough. It's like when you come to the hall here and they have a free T-shirt booth, people lose their minds. It's the same thing.
Did people feel more comfortable in their role?
Yes.
Instead of like, it changed your attitude? Was it a leader's hypothesis? Let's talk about that decision-making process. Where'd that come from?
Our operations people are great, and we watch other concepts. And when you see the concepts that honestly show people engaged, not they say they're engaged, Chipotle.
Right.
Whether you like Chipotle or not, you go in there, the people are like, how you doing? What's going on? You want a burrito? And they're in a t-shirt and jeans and not matching shoes, but they come up every day. So we're trying to be more accessible because we always hire younger.
Yeah.
We tend to draw, restaurants do.
Yeah, it's usually the first job.
Yeah. So we want them to be have a good environment.
So let's get into that a little bit. LaRosa, so everyone out there who's not familiar with the brand, let's give a quick little pitch.
Okay. We've been in business for 70 years, which is unlike most restaurants.
Except if you're from Brooklyn or New York or Staten Island, that's where pizza's from.
It's some pizza. Some pizza. No, their pizza's great. But most restaurants last about 10 years. So we're celebrating our 70th year this year. We're an institution. People come to our place 2 to 3 times a week.
How would you classify the style of pizza? What's it closest to? Is it more like an East Coast thin crust, deep dish?
It's a little
West
thicker.
Coast CPK?
It's a little thicker than an East Coast. It's not like a cracker crust.
Yeah.
But our big difference is our sauce. Yours is more tomatoey and acid. Ours is more sweet.
I don't mind a sweet pizza. I'm gonna have to try it out there. So you have an interesting organization, right? Because you have a mix of C-suite, traditional business driving organization, then you have the frontline workers.
Yeah.
You as a leader, how are you able to, how do you manage the two together? There's times when you have to manage them apart. Talk a little inside baseball here. Or you don't.
We're very comfortable with each other. We just know each other. The CEO can come to the front line and nobody panics.
It's not like, oh my God, the boss is here.
Hey, Michael's here. How's he doing? And Michael's like, hi, Adam. How are you?
Yeah.
How's it going today? How's the pizza going? And that has been the family tradition we've had. And people who come and if they want to add value at our company, if you don't get that part of the culture, you won't stay.
So let's talk a little bit about these frontline workers. There's folks, obviously, that stay in this industry for a long time. They build careers in it. And it's also an entry-level job. And it's also at times, let's be call it is, it could be a little bit transient, right? A little transactional, too. So how do you guys operate? Let's talk from a business perspective of hiring. And how do you also instill culture on an hourly job?
I think we switched. In the past, we have a lot of tenured people, like crazy tenured people. We're going to have a person retire when I get back to the office who's only been with us 47 years.
Only.
Does
he get a golden pizza at 50? Or you get a gold dip,
we've
a pizza plaque right here?
3 or 4 that have made past 50 and they're like, it's pizza. It's not,
But there's a reason they work.
So, but the frontline people, it's, we want to take care of you for the time we have you.
I like that.
So instead of, we're going to make you stay for years, if you're here a year, great. If you're here less than a year, let's have that be the best time. We find that people cross the year threshold, it's 5, 10, 15. It's amazing.
Do you throw around the word family business?
Not much, but because we have family members who are business people first.
Right.
And that's important.
You have to run a business.
We have to run a business. And
you employ a lot of families. You take care of a lot of people in the community.
We have generational hiring. So your son or daughter, their son or daughter.
Is it like a rite of passage kind of thing?
It is. People say, I worked here, my grandfather worked here, my uncle worked here. So we love that.
What's some modern day challenges as a HR people business leader? Let's rewind to the pandemic a little bit. How did that affect the overall business? Pickup?
We never shut down.
Yeah.
So what people forget is at the first part we were essential, now we're not. But during the pandemic, we were feeding everybody.
God bless the pizza. They're always essential to me.
But the sales were incredible, but we had to switch our business model. Less dine-in, of course.
Of course.
We went to carry-out and curbside pickup that we had been talking about for 3 years.
So it actually helped speed up innovation.
It did.
And did they kind of retrofit some of the restaurants, maybe use some of the table service for now prep and setup?
Yeah. And it changed our model going forward too. Because
margins are different.
Because people haven't come back to the pre-pandemic eating model. So
people are still taking out.
Taking out and carry out is huge. And they will. It's more, it takes care of your family quicker.
Right.
You
have to schlep your whole family to the pizza place.
For an hour and a half.
But it's also an outing experience.
Yeah.
I find I got a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old. And sometimes when I'm like, my wife's out or something, my move with the kids, we go to the pizza place.
Yeah.
It's a cultural institution.
Sure.
It is a vibe. It's also affordable.
Yeah.
And I know that we share. My kids could eat a we call it New York inflation, right? Now it slices up to $4 a slice.
Oh my gosh.
Side note, when's the last time you were in New York City?
Oh gosh, probably 6 years ago.
Are you a pizza guy? Like, are you a pizza guy?
I am a pizza guy.
Right.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Next time you come to New York, I would love to take you on a Brooklyn pizza tour.
Oh, nice. I love that.
We'll go to like the Faros. We'll go down to L&B in Brooklyn. Brooklyn only.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm good.
We might, because Brooklyn and Queens touch. There's epic pizza places in Queens too.
Okay.
But it's the 5 boroughs there, and I think you'll see like it's the same vibe I'm getting at LaRosa is like the same families, the same traditions. And you talked earlier about the T-shirts. It's kind of like an old school New York people wear T-shirts.
Yeah.
They still do. And it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
When I see Knapp Street Pizza, my first OG pizza place in Brooklyn up there, that logo, when I see it, that's like, I get chills from it. That's one of my earliest childhood memories.
Sure.
So what's, going back to what I was talking about before, what are those challenges? You're at the forefront of the organization from a people culture perspective. What are some of these big challenges you're facing today?
I think the biggest challenge is teaching the new workforce to come in that it's okay to collaborate, it's okay to have relationships, it's okay to trust and learn from others. I think they've been isolated for so long that teaching that interaction, because in a restaurant, it's interaction.
It's a
right.
team.
It's right. In the corporate office, same thing. So we've broken down silos. We've tried to pull people together so that they're always working together.
How do you do that tactically? What are some of your strategies and tactics?
I'm never at my desk, ever.
Is there like a restaurant below corporate? Like, how's that set up?
It's across the street.
All right, cool.
Across the
So
street.
you're always kind of going in?
I go into all our restaurants. And, when you walk in, when I first started walking in, they're like, oh no, HR's here. And now it's like, Steve, what's up? I'm like, what's happening?
Well, she need the perspective of HR being the narcs, the cops.
Well, sure. And we earned it. And a lot of companies have
Back
earned
in the
it.
day.
But now, it doesn't work. It's archaic.
So how do you instill a culture of trust?
I'm sorry?
How do you instill a culture of trust?
I think you have to be credible. If you're credible first, and I'm going to fail, because I'm going to fail you, I'm going to disappoint you. It's funny, everybody here at the conference lost their mind because of Jason Sudeikis, and I have certain feelings about it. But here's my thing.
Evan, he said it first. He brought up
hold on.
Jason Sudeikis.
Well,
So we're going to go there.
Here it is. He disappointed somebody. So do we. So when people go, how dare he? That's not loss of trust. We're going to fail. I think trust happens when you fail, you come back out of it.
So that's interesting. Listen, he is a human being.
Sure.
He is not Ted Lasso in real life.
No kidding.
He's Jason Sudeikis. He's going through he's going through some shit right now, pardon my French. He's a human. You don't know what's going on in his life. You don't know the reason. And yes, he's disappointed. I know you're a giant Ted Lasso fan.
I am a huge Ted Lasso fan, but I like the show and the content. My thing is, it's funny. I saw people here in line for a coffee place that I won't say where the coffee place is, and they're upset that the line is too long. Instead of saying, these people are going to give me coffee at an exorbitant price, isn't it wonderful? We were at an outing
captive audience.
We were at an outing last night, and people were in line for a drink, a free drink, by the way, and yelling at the bartenders. We're in HR.
These free drinks are taking too long.
Yeah, we're in HR. We have to be more human. If you find HR people that are truly human themselves, their culture will reflect it.
I absolutely love that. So let's talk a little bit alpha. Like, you're walking the floor here. You're talking to other speakers, other thought leaders in the space. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But what's the newest trick that you've learned in your repertoire?
Be comfortable with technology. Because instead of
You
fearing...
tech hesitant?
Please?
Are you tech hesitant?
No. I just don't understand it quickly. And so when I see people say, hey, we're going through our internal communication process. And so we put somebody in who's much more tech savvy. And she's like, why can't we use this? Why can't we look at Slack? Why can't we do this? I go, show me how. And they jump in. And so our old guard is learning. They know how to communicate. They just don't know the platforms. So I think we have to be more nimble. I don't like the word agile. I don't.
No.
But nimble, we're interrupted every day, all the time. We have to understand that's how business works. Be nimble and we're good.
I think that's a lesson for everyone out there. And I think it comes down to, well, if you want to raise it up 30,000 feet, it's being open-minded.
Sure.
You listen. And one of my favorite Ted, you could keep me straight on this one, is quoted on curiosity. What is it? Be curious, don't be... What's the Ted Lasso quote on curiosity? you know the Ted Lasso quote on curiosity?
I don't know the quote.
We're going to insert Ted Lasso quote on curiosity here in post-production. But
that's great.
It's be curious. It's something that I look for in personal relationships,
sure,
professional relationships. As a recruiter,
yeah,
I want someone who's curious about their industry. I want someone who cares. Let's bring it home here. What's keeping you up at night these days as a business leader?
We're trying to transform our organization so that we go through a successful succession to the next level of family. And we have an incredible team coming, and they're doing great work. But teaching them the business is a lot different than having them do good work. So it's going to be an exciting adventure. I wouldn't say it's keeping me up at night. It just gets me excited to go back in.
What's the number one core value at LaRosa's that every employee needs to really embrace?
Here's the thing that's wild. When you say, why do you work at LaRosa's? They go, I love it here. And I go, I know you love it here, but why do you love it here? And so the biggest trait we have at LaRosa's is people are willing. And I don't see that in organizations. If I said, Adam, hey, could you take the trash out, man? You don't go, I'm this, I do that. I do this. And you're like, sure, I take the trash out. And hey, could you help us put the stuff in the car for the district manager who's going out to one of our pizzerias? Yeah, let's go load the car. Its willingness is shown and modeled. And if you don't have that, you won't stay.
I absolutely love that. And that applies to any business. Be willing to do any job.
Yep.
And I think that goes a long way. So Steve, let's leave everybody here with some words of wisdom, some words of advice.
Pressure.
You've been around the block. You've seen it, been there, done that. But the way I like to frame the advice question is a little bit differently. What is that golden piece of advice that you received that you take action on every day? Your mantra. You can borrow Ted Lasso mantra?
No, my mantra is this. My mom and my dad always believed in others. It's others first, always. I grew up in a small town like Mayberry. It's in Ada, Ohio. It's tiny. And you go to Ada and everybody knows everybody for generations. You walk down the street and go, hi, 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 hi. And everybody in the town talked about my parents because of how they cared for others. And so if you're not others focused in HR, you shouldn't be in the field.
Isn't that what legacy is? And well, I should say, isn't that what reputation is? What people say about you behind your back when you're not looking?
Sure.
And they taught you that.
Yeah.
And that is good. And that's why you do what you do. That's why Steve Browne is a man. Where can folks connect with you? Where can they learn more?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm still on, I guess, X now. I call it Twitter. I'm always going to show up on Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I'm everywhere. You can find me, Steve Browne with an E.
Steve Browne with an E. What's next for you on the HR circuit?
Got to talk here at 12:30.
We're going to get him out of here. We are wrapping, folks.
All right.
Awesome. Steve Browne, everybody, the man, the myth, the legend. Thrilled to have him here today. Check out LaRosa's Pizza, one of their 11 locations. When I'm out there, I am going to taste test it. And please take me up next time you're in New York. We're going to do Brooklyn.
I will do that.
I'll take the executives
Right,
to Steve Browne, everybody,
Thank
on
you.
the podcast. Take care.